Coming to you from Grand Rounds Brewing Company and Restaurant, our town.
So I picked up the paper last week and saw this. What's up with that? I have Jay Furst here, executive editor at the Rochester Post-Bulletin. So what was this all about?
We were one of 200 papers. First of all, I'm glad to be here. We were one of 200 papers that did this last week. It was Minnesota Newspaper Week. Minnesota Newspaper Association was celebrating its 150th anniversary. We wanted a way to call attention to the fact that local news is vital in a community of our size and any size, and that newspapers are a fundamental part of local news.
Sure. And the newspaper and the print media business has definitely faced a lot of challenges over the past few years. How has that affected the Post-Bulletin's ability to disseminate, gather, distribute information?
It's expanded it infinitely. It creates challenges in the business model, as it has for every business. But it's a thrilling time to be in media, for all the obvious reasons. So it's a challenge, but we call attention to this in the print edition because we need to keep our print edition strong as well.
Of course. So how many people do you have out there in terms of reporters out there on the beat, as they say?
On the beat, we have a dozen reporters, and on the news side, we have 5 on the sports side. We have a team of 4 photographers, and really a newsroom of 27 people. We're all out on the beat in some fashion or another.
Of course. And do you think there's a particularly difficult or challenging part of collecting the news stories in the Rochester community, or outside as well?
I wouldn't say so, no. I mean, the Post-Bulletin's been doing this for 150 years, and I've been doing this for 35 years. I think we know, in fact, we have more methods now to gather news than ever before.
Sure,
so.
You're a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
A few months ago, we had K-Fate and Andrew Link here talking about their fake news story, or not their fake news story, but a story that was picked up by fake news media. How are you dealing with sort of the public kind of discomfort with the media in this day and age?
That's exactly why we did this front page treatment. And by the way, we did add 4 pages of news to the newspaper to make up for that one that we took away. But people trust us in a way that they will never trust some of the fly-by-night websites that grabbed our photo in that particular case. And we are running a campaign right now that says facts matter. And more than ever, I think people believe that they need news they can trust and news organizations that they can go to every day. So.
I am guiltily part of a generation that doesn't read as much print media. So how is the digital world offering new opportunities for you all?
It's all new opportunities. I mean, the business model challenge is there. We need to keep our print edition strong while we grow our website and while we grow digital. But for those of us on the news side, it's exhilarating to have the ability to break news right now and not wait for the press to run the next day. We do need to figure out the financial part of this. But.
Sure. And Rochester, so I come from a much bigger city, from New York City, and Rochester, it's a large city, and for its size, we don't actually have as many print media outlets. How do you see that changing as the city grows in the future with DMC and all the development that's happening?
It's a good question. To show a newspaper with no news in it, if you want to imagine our 27 reporters going away, 27 reporters, editors, photographers going away and not having that reporting muscle on the street, I don't think they're going to be replaced by people who do blogs or websites or Facebook posts, whatever. I'm not so sure that those people are replaced. In fact, I'm quite sure they're not. So.
Good. In terms of the, you said it was 33 years?
35.
35 years.
Yep.
What has been the most surprising thing about being in the newspaper business here in Rochester?
I'm here in Rochester, and I've been here since '94. And when I got here, the city was 85,000, and now it's 115,000. And I don't think anybody in Rochester in 1994 would have imagined the kind of dynamic growth that we're having. And yeah, DMC is part of that, but I think that kind of followed on the growth that Mayo has been driving for the last, since the beginning of Mayo Clinic, but it's really changed a lot. And just the fact that we're sitting here in a brew pub is one of the big advantages over that. So.
That's great. And I mean, the Post-Bulletin has quite a responsibility, again, as being sort of the major print media and digital media that we have in town. How do you sort of think about your accountability to the community in terms of helping them think through some of the changes that are happening, think through controversial issues that are affecting the city?
That's actually in my role as executive editor. That's kind of what I do, is the opinion page, the analysis, and I do columns and so on. And we do play that role, and we have from the beginning of our history here, 150 years ago, was to help form to give people information that they can form their opinions and then also express our opinions. And in this time of DMC, which I think still a lot of people don't understand what DMC is all about, we think it's that much more important that we're producing sections and so on that really explain it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and print media matters, so thank you.
All right, take care.
Our Town is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations.
The new Clements Subaru proudly partners with award-winning KSMQ Public Television. Clements Subaru of Rochester. Clements' clear value promise is to make buying a Subaru fast, fair, and simple. The Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
And the members of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you.
Yeah, KSMQ Public Television is proud to be a part of that local news gathering process with a show like Our Town, but hats off to the Post-Bulletin for the fine work they do there. Okay, important stuff now. Last week I mentioned that several of KSMQ's staff headed down to see the total solar eclipse, and I promised you t-shirts. I said send tacky ones. Now this one is from Ed on our floor crew now, but it looks very nice. Eclipse Exeter, so they were near that city in Nebraska. But that looks really pretty cool, actually. We have some that are a little less cool. We'll put those on our website. I think one says, I went where the sun don't shine, and then had the name of the town on it. I don't know, that's just a rumor that I heard. But the other t-shirts we'll show you on the Our Town page at ksmq.org. Kevin Hansen also went to Nashville, our other floor crew person. Even though it was a little cloudy at peak eclipse, the local KSMQ staff and friends enjoyed looking up, nonetheless, with the proper eye gear. Stay with us. Coming up on Our Town, we're taking a walk around town to find some good eats. We get a little history on Priscilla Wagoner, and Dee Sabol from the Diversity Council joins us to talk about racism in Rochester today. Up first, though, we meet a local photographer artist in this week's Our Culture segment.
I am Dawn Sanborn. I am a fine art photographer. I've been interested in art since I was about 3 years old. When I started out doing those dot to dots, right? And then I figured I could probably just draw this myself. So from that point on, I just started drawing, and so photography came into my life pretty early. My dad was an amateur photographer, so I always had cameras around. And so by the time I got to junior high, when we got into the darkroom, I thought this is really what I love and like to do. So. I do have a full-time business in photography, doing work for commercial work for Rochester Women magazine, as well as my own high school seniors' weddings and all of that. And then I also participate in galleries and show my personal work. I think having the variety makes it that much easier to not get burned out. I mean, because I definitely like doing portraits more than landscapes or something like that. And so, I mean, most of my work has been using models and being creative, so it kind of flows into the actual business end of it too. So high school seniors don't get to look like everybody else, so we try something new with everyone. So, well, right now, besides doing the business and my artwork, I do work at the Federal Medical Center, teaching art and art therapy to the inmates. And so that is going to be a part of my future because it's been the most rewarding job I've ever had. I also believe that if you can afford a nice camera, you should learn how to use it. You know, everybody can own their own camera and take pictures. You still got to know what you're doing. So I do teach photography classes as well. So everything from composition to camera one, showing the basics, to portrait photography, and camera two, which teaches you all about the other bells and whistles on a camera. For photography, for me, it's almost instant gratification, but I have the ability to make it look even better. And that's the artistic side that I still love. Inspiring me is looking at other people's artwork as well. So every time I go to a museum, I get inspired and start taking pictures. I would encourage anybody to follow their dream, no matter what it is. If it's photography, if it's art, if it's driving a truck, do it. You know, life's too short. You might as well do what you love. And anybody can make it work if they try hard enough, just knowing what they're doing. My professional website is www.dawnsanborn.com, and for the workshops, it's demystifyyourcamera.com.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/ourtown.
I too joined a lot of people to see the eclipse in St. Joseph, Missouri. Unfortunately, I didn't get quite as good a view as some of the folks that went down to Nebraska, but we did see the skies grow dark and the birds were really confused, thinking it was nighttime. And one of the coolest things I think was probably the fact that in a year that we've been talking a lot about Americans being divided, it was really amazing to be with a whole bunch of Americans seeing the eclipse, sharing sunscreen, passing out water, extra solar glasses. So yeah, once in a lifetime, and I think, yeah, it was wonderful. Up next, Sunday, August 27th from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. at Kathy's Pub is the time for the next DJ Gotham African Party Inception. This event is for anyone in town who likes to have fun and is a medium to unite cultures. Learn more about it by calling Nelson at 507-398-1079. General admission is $10. And are you a terror on wheels? The Med City Mafia Roller Derby is hosting a new recruit boot camp on Wednesday, September 6th at the Boys and Girls Club of Rochester. Learn everything you need to know about what it takes to be a skater or referee. Check out their Facebook page for all the details. And while the days of elephants in the circus may be waning, today's circus performance are feats of acrobatics and special effects. Cirque Italia is coming to Rochester September 7th through the 10th in the Apache Mall parking lot. The big top tent features aerial acts, hand balancing, contortionists, and aquatic spectacles. More information at cirqueitalia.com. Chippy, rusty, dusty, and worn. Many items at the weathered and rusty market may have started out that way, but you'll be amazed by the creative way vendors have transformed these goods into treasures. Running September 22nd and 23rd at Graham Park, this is their 4th annual event, and admission is free. More details on their Facebook page. Food and walking, what a great combination. Let's find out what interesting menu items Danielle discovered on this week's Walkabout segment.
This is Danielle Till with Our Town Walkabout. We're joining the Rochester Food Tours.
If you guys have never been on a food tour, it's a mix of walking and eating and exploring the city.
And you've been doing this since 2013.
2013, yeah.
What made you want to start the Rochester Food Tours?
I was on a food tour in Arizona. They're all over the world. Oh, thank you.
So that's amazing. They have the food ready. Hi. How's it going? You're on camera.
I'm doing great.
Okay. Is there a special way to eat this?
Really, the tzatziki sauce on top, like I said, one of my favorites.
It's so good.
Sometimes after I get done with a tour, I come back here like, that looks good.
Well, let me know when you come back. I'll come with you.
Some places will sit down. And like our next stop, we kind of grab and walk with it. And then we have some groups that will have a cocktail, and if they don't have anything else going on at the end of the day, the tour might take a little longer.
Okay, well, we're okay with that. Wow, really? Okay, I am down with that. Everybody's done with their food. Bon appetit. Wait, how do you say it in Greek? Bon appetit. You say bon. Opa. I'm lactose intolerant.
Oh, so no ice cream at the end?
Oh, I'm gonna eat ice cream.
So our next stop is tea time. Have you guys ever had bubble tea before?
What is everyone gonna get? Do you know yet?
Anytime I can get passion fruit, I'm in love with it.
You're in love with it. Okay. I'll take the passion fruit. Is that me?
You, passion fruit.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it automatically has a lining on
lid
top, and then I just poke it. Oh, wow. Cheers. This is Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout.
Conversations about racism are seldom simple or easy.
Find out where Rochester stands with Dee Sabol coming up next.
Our Past, remembering what made us who we are today. Brought to you by the History Center of Olmsted County.
Priscilla Wagoner was born on February 15, 1912, to Carlton and Nina Cook Wagoner, respected Rochester business and hotel owners. When Carlton died in 1918 at 45, Nina took over management of what was known as Wagner Block. Priscilla showed an interest in music and a talent for the violin at a young age, and graduated from the prestigious Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. She eventually abandoned a promising performance career to move home and help her mother run the family business. Priscilla also taught music at Rochester High School and was a member of the Rochester Symphony Orchestra. Priscilla became owner and manager of Wagner Properties after Nina died in 1949. During Priscilla's tenure, she was elected as the Rochester Hotel Association's first woman president in 1958. In July of 1959, Priscilla attended the International Congress of the Federation of Business and Professional Women in Paris and took time to travel throughout Europe. 3 months later, the vibrant musician and business leader was found dead of carbon monoxide poisoning in her garage.
Events in Charlottesville, Virginia have again pushed the conversation about race to the forefront.
Dee Sabol, Executive Director of the Diversity Council, joins us to reflect on the conversation taking place in Rochester. Welcome to our town.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
These terrible events, have you noticed more people talking, at least raising the issue in their day-to-day lives?
Absolutely. I think you'd be hard-pressed to not feel that there isn't just this increased tension around the issue, but that people really want now to talk about it and figure out what's going on.
How do you quantify racism in a community as it exists? I mean, we know it exists in the air, in life, but
sure.
Is there a factor you use, or what do you call it? How do you measure it?
It's a pretty elusive thing to measure because there are different kinds of racism. There are structural racism, institutional racism. So structural meaning large and community-based, institutional meaning within organizations, and then personal racism that people either acknowledge or don't acknowledge, know that they have or don't know that they have. So it's a very elusive kind of thing to measure, but there are ways that it is measured effectively in each of those levels. So there are assessments that organizations can do that take a look at where are we on inclusiveness and acceptance of race in particular. And there are communities measure themselves in terms of acts and of hate and bias that are recorded through different institutions that.
How do we do in Roch? Where do we stack up there?
Rochester really is a bit more further along in the dialogue on race than some of the surrounding communities, and even than some of the communities its size in the Midwest. But once you're outside of the Midwest, we're a little further behind than a lot of places are.
Sure, and those different types of racism that you mentioned, they're sort of ongoing, they have histories, and so these flashpoints like Charlottesville and other instances that have been happening over the last few years, within this year, are really moments where we sort of have to kind of recenter, and there's a lot of fear that goes along with that. What role does the Diversity Council have in sort of facilitating those conversations? What specifically have you been doing to kind of counter some of that fear and apprehension when these events happen?
So we have a few things that we do organizationally ourselves, and they are some of our initiatives like Allies and Advocates, which is a way for people who are feeling an increased sense of fear, frustration, anger, sorrow, whatever it happens to be because of hate and bias incidents or other things that they're facing. It's a program that helps folks with that and matches them with resources that they need. And we also have educational programs that we offer. But one of the most important roles that the Diversity Council plays in this community and in broader Southeast Minnesota is convening and making sure that when there's an opportunity, people know the opportunity, that everyone who might be interested in joining a conversation is at the table, that everyone's voice is heard, that there are avenues and accessibility for people to come to the table and talk when there's something going on. And there is a lot going on, even predating Charlottesville.
Of course. And when you have those conversations, do you offer then tools for more action, next steps, other things that people can be doing?
Absolutely. And that has been the amazing thing, I think, not just since Charlottesville, though that has even amplified it, but most people that come to us, over the course of the last year, let's say, have been looking for, what can I do? What can I do personally? What can we do as an organization? What can our civic group do? What can our congregation do? What can we be doing? And so the action steps are the most important part.
Is it just how other communities this size, are we ahead just by nature of that there is a diversity council and that it exists? Or is this kind of organization pretty commonplace in the country?
So that's an interesting question. This diversity council has been here for 28 years. That was a long time ago, particularly in the Midwest, to start having those discussions. There were diversity councils that started in even larger cities at that time that are gone now and no longer exist. Not because the problems aren't there, but because they haven't had the type of ongoing access to community and integration with community. Lots of communities our size, particularly Midwestern communities, don't have diversity councils or are just embarking on that journey.
So we have that support. That's a good thing.
It's a good thing, and it's been deeply integrated in our public schools, in our civic life, in our public spaces and other places. So I think it's an amazing thing. I feel very blessed to be part of it.
One of the things I'm always telling people is that actually Rochester is a lot more diverse than it sort of lets on.
Yeah.
How much of our sort of diversity in the fullest sort of range of what that means impact the conversations we're having and some of the differences we might have in terms of other surrounding areas?
So I think where we are right here in Olmsted County, in Rochester, we're having a really there's a lot of variety in the conversations that we're having. It's very nuanced because here we're already talking about the disaggregation of race and different things. And we have communities right in the vicinity who are just beginning to diversify, having their first instance of difference coming in. And so they're in a completely different place on their path.
Wait, go back a second. Disaggregation of race.
Disaggregation of race.
Help me understand what that's all about.
Okay, I'll give you just a really good example. So, we measure things in terms of race, and if you think about Asian as a race category, people will say that the Asian population is making equal. So if you're thinking of income, household income, the Asian race is on par with the white race as far as income goes. But when you disaggregate that data, those data will say that Chinese and Indian are kind of on par, but when you look at other populations, they fall way below.
So breaking apart those general guides
right.
to, okay.
Yeah, the social construct of race, which doesn't really even work anymore. And at some point in the near future, I hope we need to deal with that,
Well,
because it's the same with black.
We can't get into that today,
I know, but it's an issue, and that issue, that conversation is going on here in Rochester.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned the black community, and here in Rochester we have African, we have East African, West African,
yes,
North African, we have African
and they're
American.
not all having the same experience.
Exactly.
And when you lump them statistically together, and that's how you need to want to talk about it, it doesn't work.
How do folks engage with Diversity Council? Do you have anything coming up that the general public can engage in?
Absolutely. We always have some public programs and activities on the calendar. And then again, like I said, we really champion the efforts of other organizations and other groups that have dialogues coming up and have events coming up. And there are some great ones. There's an event coming up on September 10th called Community in Motion. It's the first time for this event, and it is an interfaith, cross-faith, conversation. It's a celebration and then a conversation, and it's going to be taking a look at the core, the crux of the dialogue is going to be, here are the issues that are going on that we know are most important to Rochester. We've all participated in that work over the past few years. What are the issues we have? What's most important? And so the things that come up are housing and education and the array. And this conversation is going to be about what role do faith institutions play? What do our faith organizations, what role do they need to be playing together in addressing some of the underlying issues?
Well, thank you so much, Dee. We look forward to hearing more about that event and other wonderful things that the Diversity Council is doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Our town will be taking a short break for a few weeks. We'll see you again in September.
In the meantime, join Nicole and me next week as we moderate an important conversation, the rural healthcare crunch. That's Friday night at 8, right here on KSMQ Public Television.